when we speak about some of the leading principals in the country, your name is always up there.
Once you're there in teaching and your students like you, you're smitten and you're there to stay. I really feel career counseling cannot be treated as a peripheral function. You may be training people to clinch a 90%. But do those kids know which direction are they supposed to go in? I was just talking to one of your students who was talking about a degree in engineering and business. Now we want to tell our children that these possibilities are there. Stop thinking only in terms of the electrical and the mechanical and the civil and computer engineering.
What is your take on what we are trying to do at Masters Union?
See, there are three things that I particularly appreciate about Masters Union.
Hi, a very warm welcome to yet another edition of our podcast series that we are doing as part of Intersect by Masters Union. Today we have a legendary high school leader with us, Dr. Neeta Bali. I mean, she has been an inspiration for all of us who have been working in admissions and outreach space. Over 4 decades of experience and a rich legacy. Today is going to be a really insightful and a very, very inspirational conversation for all of us who are working in the space of education, admissions, outreach, career guidance. So stick around. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome
Thank you
to
so much.
the
Thank you.
podcast with us at Intersect by Masters Union. It is it's a personal honor for me to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to be here as well.
And Dr. Neeta, when we speak about some of the leading principals in the country, your name is always up there, and it is there for a reason. I know you. I mean, professionally, I think for at least now 7-8 years, I've been following you on social media and LinkedIn, and we have met at conferences. You have been kind enough to be a part of Intersect on more than a couple of occasions. I think the last time you were here at the School Leaders Roundtable that we hosted in association with IB and Education World.
Right.
You even earlier editions of Intersect, you have participated on panels, and we have seen the insightful comments and the experience that comes across while we are speaking to you. This is another very interesting opportunity for us to understand you better, and for our viewers of this podcast series to know the person behind Dr. Neeta Bali and the 4 decades of experience that you have. It was also a learning experience for me to go back in your, I mean, it's you don't look that old. Let me put it that
So
way.
you're trying to ferret out information about me, but I am as old as you figured out.
Yeah, so when I started reading about you, and I started reading a little bit about this conversation. I mean, 4 decades of experience. I mean, started I think way back in 1983.
83 is when I started teaching.
Started teaching. So let's start there. I mean, your early academic life and what brought you to teaching, and what were your early teaching years like?
Okay, if I were to talk about my early teaching years, honestly, Ankur, in the initial years when I just finished my post graduation and I'd finished my bachelor's in education from Central Institute of Education, Delhi University, the whole idea was that it's just a year's course and it's kind of fallen on my lap because that was very fiercely competitive. So let me do it, but I'm not going to take teaching as a profession. Before I knew, I got yanked into teaching. I went to this school called Mater Dei in Delhi. And in those days, convent schools were very sought after. It was not the regular public schools per se that were sought after. It was the convents that were sought after. And I was very fortunate to have found a place as a teacher of English in a convent. So I got pulled in, and within 2 years, strangely, I grew in the sense professionally. I became a head of department. And then I think there was no looking back. Once I became a head of department and started to teach grades 11 and 9, 10, 11 and 12, essentially 11 and 12. First, I was teaching them the ISC and the ICSC. So initial years was all ISC. So I was dealing with students who were barely 6 to 7 years older than me. Younger than me. So that itself was a huge challenge, because to accept a teacher who's very young is slightly tough for kids and with little experience compared to the others. But I think somewhere I was able to strike a rapport with the children, and there was a personal connect with the students, And because of that personal connect and the time that I enjoyed with my children, a lot of hard work went into re-looking at Shakespeare that I was teaching because you could not go unprepared to class. The girls were such; they came from very affluent homes. They used to speak very well, so you had to be very sure of your diction, your pronunciation, the way you expressed yourself, the way you carried yourself, because these are students that came from very affluent homes. So all of that helped me to groom myself into a very fine teacher. So, as I said, over a period of time, I realized that the kind of love and adulation that you get from young people when you are adding value to their lives is so immense and is so valuable that it
Absolutely.
probably, it supersedes any other consideration. So I know that in India, teachers, particularly at that point of time, were not very well paid. So ideally, one should have looked for a career. I had the right talent. Maybe I could have looked for a career elsewhere. But once you're there in teaching and your students like you, you're smitten and you're there to stay. So during a course of time, I found that, this is the profession for me. And rightly so. Now, when I look back in retrospect, it has been a very enriching journey. And the first 19 years were probably the most beautiful because I was in the process of learning. I was being groomed as a fine teacher. I was interacting closely with children in the classrooms. So there was so much they learned from me, but there was a lot that I learned from them. So that was a very enriching experience. That's how my journey started.
Wonderful. I think you spent about 18 years in Metro Day.
A little over 18
18
years.
years, and
Yeah.
you were the
Head of
English teacher, head of
department.
department for English.
Yes.
And I think 18 years is a long time. So you really, as you said, you really
Yeah.
enjoyed your
Yeah.
teaching, and
Yes.
I think you touched the right chord as well. I mean, once you see your students loving you and you see them, respecting you for adding value to their lives and guiding them, I think that's the most cherished aspect of our job
Yes.
as teachers.
Yes.
And I started teaching at OP Jindal recently. I started teaching taught a course of marketing this semester, and this is what I experienced. I mean, the growth that I saw in terms of early months of my teaching, and then the final. We just had the final semester exams yesterday, and the love that they showered on me, and I think I also enjoyed at that aspect that you mentioned.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, 18 years met a day, and you were enjoying your journey and head of department. What after that for
So
you?
after that, I chose to join the APJ group. I worked with APJ School Noida as vice principal for 6 years. The primary reason for moving to APJ School Noida was the fact that my second child, there's a generational gap between my two kids. The first one had just finished her 12th, and the second one had just gotten into school. So we could only admit him in APJ Noida, which is a school that takes children of a slightly younger age. So we decided to send him to APJ School Noida, and the principal there, Dr. Hazija, made me an offer because he heard me speak. And then he made me an offer. He says, "You're just the kind of vice principal I want." So I said, "No harm trying," which I did. And it was a good experience because I took my own daughter who had spent 12 years in a convent. I thought she should be exposed to a culture where there is co-education. So she spent 2 years and enjoyed her time thoroughly. And my son, of course, was there. So that is the reason for shifting. But then I would say that was again a very enriching time because from, I would say, a slightly closeted kind of environment because convents are at least that point of time, they were very firm about discipline and the way girls attired, at least in school. You were always attired in a prim and proper salwar kameez and all that kind of thing. Here it was different. And I never dealt with boys.
Okay.
So dealing with grown-up boys came as an eye-opener. You can't deal with them the way you deal with girls. And if you're in an administrative position where you're supposed to discipline boys, I realize, so you have to blow hot, blow cold. So you can't be treating them the way the girls are way easier to control. So boys have a lot of energy.
Yes.
So boys have to be dealt with differently. So I was dealing with grades 11 and 12, also teaching one section of 12. So that was a completely different experience teaching boys. Boys, unlike girls, are probably will not have the same degree of seriousness towards their studies. Majority, I'm not don't want to generalize. Majority of them, and their minds are in 10 different directions. So ensuring that their attention is focused on the task at hand again becomes a challenge. So that was a little tough, but I think I kind of tided over that in a fairly short span of time. I was able to manage well and spent 6 beautiful years at APJ. After which I was very fortunate. Um, the GD Goenka group, Mr. Anjani Goenka and Mrs. Renu Goenka, who now head the GD Goenka group, they identified me as somebody who should head their world school, which is the Cambridge and Ivy School. So for 6.5 years, I was there as principal and
this
had a
is in
director.
Delhi?
No, this is on Sona Road.
Sona Road, Gurgaon.
Sona Road, where the university is now.
Yeah.
On the same campus. So I headed that school for 6.5 years. Now here was yet another challenge because at every milestone, I've had to face a challenge. And I quite like my own gumption and courage and resilience. I've managed those challenges well. So I was coming from a regular CBSE school and then transitioning to an IB school and heading it, which is even tougher, which meant that your staff were probably more accomplished in teaching the IB programs than I was. So I spent 1 full month. I was given paid leave by Goenka, so I could spend 1 month to just sit down and study the IB and Cambridge curriculum, which I did. And of course, they insisted that I train myself, which I did. And I suppose that 1 month sabbatical that I took, where I trained myself and studied about the IB and Cambridge, assisted me to then take on the school effectively. But going forward, it was very fast moving because your job doesn't really, a head's job or a principal's job doesn't really entail going into the classroom and teaching per se. It's only broadly monitoring, ensuring there's capacity building, there's effective transaction of academic transaction in the classroom. The disciplinary issues have to be dealt with. So all that I dealt with beautifully. And I think by the end of it, I got a hang of the IB curriculum. And today I'm happy to say, even though I head CBSE schools, I'm still an examiner for IB for English language and literature higher level.
Wonderful. I think and GD Goenka is an institution in its own making. I remember when the school got established. I think it was around that time that you joined them.
No, I joined them a little after the GD Goenka World School got established.
Yeah.
But I spent 12 years with them, with a little interim when I was away to Dehradun. Because of my husband's work, I had moved to Dehradun, where I headed Kasiga, which is a beautiful. Kasiga was another beautiful residential school.
Wonderful school, yeah.
So during my tenure, the school, which was not ranked by Education World, it was ranked at number 8 and then subsequently number 7. Now I understand it's the number 2 or 3 in Uttarakhand. And also, I managed to put it on the world map in the sense that I give a lot of fillip and support to the Cambridge curriculum. So our teachers started training principals in Sri Lanka. So teachers became trainers for Cambridge.
Wow.
So we did very well. Kasiga did very well in terms of enrollments, in terms of their presence on the Indian soil, and also their presence globally. But of course, I think people who belong to the plains belong to the plains. It's as straight as that.
Yeah. I agree with you. So 2 years at Kasiga and I
2.5 years at Kasiga.
Brief stint at Podar also.
Brief stint at. So from Kasiga, Pawan Podar, who's the promoter of all Podar schools. All Podar schools are owned by Pawan Podar.
Okay.
They do not run the franchisee model.
Okay.
So Mr. Pawan Podar requested me to head his Pawai school, which was again a very beautiful school. So I headed the Pawai school for a few months. But before I could settle in, Goenka's yanked me back as director for the same World School. So I worked at the World School for almost 6 years. Well, at the age of 62, then I decided more than them that I should superannuate. But I could not sit at home. So then I got picked up by the Jaipuria group. So I worked with the Anand Ram Jaipuria group and headed all their schools, 23 schools across northern belt. so as director schools. But that was probably not, uh, that was a learning experience, I would just put it this way. So I chose to leave the Jaipurias because probably I needed to do something a little more, a little more, which gave me more opportunities to meet more people, to experiment with more things, and that was tightly restricting. So I left them and I joined the MVN group. So here, the role is beautiful. My work is essentially to look at the academic transaction of the free schools, the performance of the children, the curriculum delivery. We've just introduced the Cambridge curriculum because these are hardcore CBSE schools. I've just introduced the Cambridge curriculum in early years. So they're already very strong schools academically. To my best understanding, Education World ranks them at number one in India in academic repetition. So they're very strong schools, very good schools. But at the end of the day, I think any ecosystem, any educational ecosystem has to be dynamic in nature. And we need to affect a change. And I think that's what we are trying to do now. We are trying to affect a change. So, one, of course, we have introduced the international curriculum in the early years, which is for grades nursery and KG. Two, we are doing a lot of work in the field of capacity building. So we are working on capacity building at all levels, whether it is the early years teachers, the primary, the middle school teachers, the secondary, and the upper secondary. We are working at all levels. We are working on capacity building. So since I have joined, we've had umpteen number of trainings for teachers. So trainings which range from NEP, implementation of NEP and the basic tenets of NEP and their implementation, to safety and security, POXO, you name it, and we are doing it. So
Wonderful.
we are doing a lot of, and most of these, I'm happy to share, Ankur. It's always good to call experts. We try and rope in experts from outside, like to outsource training, but I have a team. I would give credit to for this team to our president, Mr. Varun Sharma, who felt that I must have a team with me because it may be difficult for me to manage all this myself because I'm very ambitious where schools are concerned. So we have a team of people, one of whom is working on trainings with me. Another one is working on academic audits. So we have very rigorous academic audits. What we are doing is we are observing every teacher's class right from pre-nursery to grade 10. 11 and 12, not right now because they're doing the integrated program and they're taught by experts. However, subsequently that's too. So we are doing very, very rigorous academic audits, which very clearly tell the teachers what are the areas where they could improve. We want integration of technology, usage of AI in the classrooms. We don't want a didactic style of teaching. We want assessments which are not just pen and paper assessments, formative assessments, and portfolios. So we are teaching our the teachers about, it's important that our teachers are not merely informed, they're given experiential training so that they can use all these tools, using tech tools in the classrooms. We are also working around creating strong LSUs. LSUs are learning support units. So we have counselors and special educators in every school. I am myself a trained counselor. So we are trying to establish strong LSUs and procedures so that every school, it's all standardized SOPs, standard operating procedures. So everybody knows what kind of documentation has to happen and how are children to be dealt with. So we are working on LSUs. We are working on strong career advisory cells. Those are very close to my heart. In fact, that's one thing that I have been toiling over for a long period of time. Again, I'm a trained career counselor and I'm a member of the IC3 movement, a very proud member of the IC3 movement, and I'm on their inclusion, diversity, and scholarship committee.
Wonderful.
So I really feel that counseling, career counseling cannot be treated as a peripheral function. See, a career counselor is a very important person. You may be training people to clinch a 90%. But do those kids know which direction are they supposed to go in? They are clueless.
Absolutely.
So if we are not promoting career counseling in our schools, we are doing a serious disservice to our children. And that's what I'm shouting from the rooftops and trying to tell the managements. And I think they're beginning to understand. So we have a person, an in-house person now, who's working on these career counseling sessions. So I myself take a few sessions. She's taking a few sessions. We are calling universities from outside. Now, for example, Masters Union may have a certain niche program,
Yeah.
right? Where your niche program may be very unlike a conventional engineering program.
Yeah.
I was just talking to one of your students who was talking about a degree in engineering and business, a combination of engineering
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
business.
Business and tech
Now, we
management.
want to tell our children that these possibilities are there. Do not think only in terms of, stop thinking only in terms of the electrical and the mechanical and the civil and computer engineering. There is life beyond that.
Yeah.
These interdisciplinary courses, not too many kids know about. So, as career counselors, as my counterpart to my deputy who's looking after career counseling, and me, we are calling in experts from institutions that are promoting this kind of multidisciplinary teaching learning. So we are talking to a lot of universities because we may not be the right people to speak about this because um, probably people who are doing this kind of work are the best people to give authentic
Absolutely.
and good information to children who are clueless that these possibilities are also there. So counseling in a big way, I think that is very important for us. And there are multiple other things that we are kind of tinkering with. Earlier, we are doing a lot of work in the field of Cambridge, because Cambridge teaching is so very different from a regular CBSE led school. So that segment is very special to us. They may be small babies, but teaching them is a challenge. Keeping
Yeah.
them occupied, teaching them is a challenge. Training the teachers is a challenge because teachers have been groomed in a certain way to follow a certain didactic style of teaching. So we have to make sure that they move away from that didactic style. I always tell teachers when we go and observe their classes that your teaching should always reflect 30% of TTT. TTT is teacher talk time, and 70% of STT, which is the student talk time. For us, in a normal classroom, it is the other way around. Teacher, for some strange reason, imagines that they are supposed to speak more than the children. So teachers end up talking, they end up taking up most of the classroom time. So we are slowly, our teachers now are moving from TTT to STT, more STT, more student-driven learning. These changes are happening. I mean, slowly these changes are happening. They will take a year or 2 years to really show an impact.
I'm sure you are going to have a great impact at MVN. And I think coming from the city that MVN is based out of, I mean, lived my life there, born, brought up in Faridabad. But I know, I mean, someone like you has the potential to entirely reimagine the way education. I mean, they are doing well, and you were mentioning the CBSE results, and they have been
Yes,
amazing.
yes.
But I think there is so much more
To be done.
to be
Yeah.
done, and you are bringing in that experience, that vision, that energy that you have
Yeah, yeah.
to the group. So all the best to you
Thank
in
you.
that
Thank you.
objective. I'm sure you are going to do amazing things there. I'm 4 decades of experience
Yes.
from 83. Now we are in 2025. You said
20.
at 62 you
Yeah.
superannuated yourself.
Superannuated, yeah.
Superannuated yourself. Uh, what keeps you going? I mean, how do you get this energy? Or you come across as, and again, I want to couple of things, personal, reflections on you. I mean, having worked with so many principals. I mean, in India and about almost now 40 plus countries across the world, last 15 years, I've traveled. Very few academicians are able to have that kind of a personality. I mean, you are able to manage outside stakeholders, internal stakeholders, you have that energy, you have that drive, and you are open to ideas, and you're not really thinking of only your subject area or your school, but you're thinking of, as you mentioned, about the career counseling aspect of it, the teaching aspect of it. I mean, so these are not usually found in majority, sadly, majority of educators. What keeps you going, and what is that one thing that you really enjoy, that you are every day you are up, I'm sure now,
Yeah.
and you're just stretching the objectives of your own personal and professional and the community growth along with you?
See, honestly speaking, I grew up in a family where my mother was always, I always saw my mother going to work. So this thought that you couldn't be sitting at home and not doing anything or cooking meals was a completely alien thought, I couldn't accept. Two, having worked from a very young age, maybe at the age of 22 is when I started working. So I've been working perpetually without a break. Honestly speaking, the only break I ever took was a month and a half's break before I joined the MVN group because I wanted to take a little bit of a sabbatical and see what a sabbatical feels like. Three, if there was, see, honestly, some people derive, most women will have different ways of getting gratification. Uh, some derive their identity from the fact that they are somebody's wife.
Yeah.
Some people derive a lot of gratification from the fact that they are fabulous cooks.
Yeah.
Some people probably take great pride in the fact that they've made fantastic mothers
Yeah.
because their children have done very
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Very well is a very relative term.
Yeah.
However, to me, what is very well may not be very well to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So here is the thing. So women want to be wives, mothers, cooks, homemakers. I've never wanted to be any of those, honestly. I've hated cooking. I am married. I've had children. I love my kids. I love my children.
You have two of
And
them.
I have two of them, and I'm very proud of them.
Yeah.
They're very smart children. Both are doing both are doing extremely well. They're an antithesis of each other. Leaves me befuddled how parents, the kids have been brought up in the same environment by the same parents,
Yeah.
but they are so vastly different.
Different.
How is that possible? It is possible. That's left me confused. Having said that, I'm my husband's wife. Great. But I have never really drawn any sense of identity from any of them.
Any of them.
And they're okay with it.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that my husband thinks that I should not just be Pawan Bali's wife, that I am Neeta Bali in my own right.
Absolutely, you
Okay?
are.
So I think it's the other way around. Pawan probably will get a lot of attention because of me. And I'm happy
Good,
about that.
good.
And the other thing is, for me, I draw my identity from my work. And I think that's all right because my family accepts the fact that it's work first.
Yeah, dear.
Everything else can be managed without you.
Yeah.
All right? Life will go on. Your home will manage it. It can somehow roll on. Children can manage, husband can manage. Meals can be managed very easily now.
Yeah,
What if we keep ordering food from
Zomato.
outside? Zomato. So that can be managed very well. And I have never loved cooking, so it's all right. I hate going to the kitchen apart from making a cup of tea. So that is that. I only draw my identity from my work.
Wonderful. Truly a Karam Yogi.
So
you are.
that's
where
okay. That's the way I am. That's the way God made me.
God bless you. God, more power to you.
And I'm only hoping that I keep good health. That, Ankur, I feel is just so important. As I'm growing older, fortunately today, at this point of time, I'm in very good health.
God bless you.
But it is important for women to take care of their health. Because I think women, they get so caught up with looking after the family and sacrificing. Why sacrifice? Because if you hear the air hostess on a plane say that put on your own oxygen mask before you help others. So it's very important that we look after ourselves. I'm trying very hard to look after my health.
Absolutely.
So-
And you have just struck a chord with me with that comment. And when I travel, and I used to always remember this line: "Put on your mask first before helping others." Even for men, I think a lot of us try and manage so many relationships around us, and we forget about ourselves.
Yes.
And at one point of in my time in my life, I also started, feeling, I'll not say, there was some mental health issues, or I was not feeling restless. I was not feeling well, and although the world around me was telling me I'm doing very well, I felt that I was not focusing on myself. And I think at that point of time in my career, when I went back, and as you said, you took a 1.5 month sabbatical, and I also took a 3 month long sabbatical just to focus and channelize what is it that I want to do in the next phase of my life. I think it's very important for us to structure our phase of careers also. This is what I want. Yes, reflect. 10 years of my life, 5 years of my life. This is my plan. It does not stop after college. It is not a 5 year plan that you get to answer when you are in your first interview. It's lifelong. When we say lifelong learner, and success comes from this, the inner reflection and the work on your own self first before you help others. And once you do that, then you are in a much better shape to help others around you.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for resonating with that. We are sitting in Masters Union, and you have been a dear friend of the institution. As I said, you have been part of our event at Intersect, where we bridge industry academia gap, where we are talking about skills over degree, real life learning. You were speaking about meeting a couple of my students, and you found them to be really fascinating in terms of the course that they have studied. What is your take on what we are trying to do at Masters Union? Because it's not a usual institution. We are from the inception, we have been saying that students have to come out of just rote learning and just vomiting whatever they have learned in a book on an exam sheet and getting graded, and that's about it. That's not the way world operated in the past, and absolutely it will not be the way the world will operate in coming years with AI and technology.
See, there are three things that I particularly appreciate about Masters Union. One is you're not, as you very rightly said, you're not teaching the conventional courses. If we talk about engineering as a career, you're not teaching the conventional courses because life doesn't function in silos. Yeah? Learning cannot happen in silos. So when I heard a child telling me that I'm studying engineering with economics or with business, it really gladdens my heart because at the end of the day, the skills that he's picked up in the engineering courses, he has to have a certain degree of business acumen to become an entrepreneur, to put those skills to good use. So what a beautiful blend. I'm only hoping the courses are very well thought through for this kind of merger of two disciplines. So that is one, the fact that courses are multidisciplinary. That of course is there. I am also told that you give them opportunities for creating a product and pitching that product and creating revenue.
Yes, drop shipping challenge.
Yeah. What do you call it?
Drop shipping challenge.
Drop shipping challenge. I think that's the greatest learning experience ever. Believe you me, Ankur, I don't think anyone can learn from books. The only way is to learn by doing things. Unless you do things, you can never really figure out where you went right and where you went wrong. And when I watch my own son, and he often tells me that, all those degrees that you got me to do, I don't think they're any use. At this point of time, he may be struggling with a job, but I am enjoying standing afar. I'm enjoying seeing him struggle because I know at the end of the day, when he struggled through that, that 1 week of struggle is going to teach him a lot about how to deal with people and how to close a business. Right? So there is no other way of doing it. So I think that's beautiful. So that is 2, 3. If you're going to create entrepreneurs, people who are going to create jobs and not seek out jobs. That is a mindset thing. That's a mindset. So you're cultivating that mindset. And that has to be created that mindset has to be, cultivated very, very carefully because a lot of children may come from homes where they would see both their parents going to work for somebody in the morning, come back, slave and come back in the evening, right? And that parent will always tell that child, ये तो श्योर है ना, ऐसे नौकरी करोगे तो पे तो आएगी ना महीने के एंड में. So do we have the ability to become risk takers? So you are creating risk takers, okay? And it's not easy. It takes a lot of courage to create risk takers from an ethos where people have had aversion to taking risks. So they've been conditioned to believe that you should not take risks. Suppose you don't have a job. How will you fend for yourself? How will you fend for your family? So you're creating risk takers. 4, I think the most important is the faculty. I'm given to understand that your faculty are professionals.
Absolutely.
So they can't be anything better than that because Somebody who has done it all can only tell you how it
Yeah,
works.
it works.
All right? Someone who's experienced where the shoe pinches can only tell you
Yes,
whether you should put your foot
yes,
in that shoe or not.
yes.
Right? So, if professionals can be roped in to teach rather than classroom teachers, I don't think it can get any better than
Absolutely.
that.
Thank you so much for resonating with us. And thank you so much. I mean, one of the reasons I think you are resonating with us is because you're yourself a visionary and hearing
No,
your story.
I think when I started to hear about, honestly speaking, I was working with the previous group and you had called me to this event that you were conducting,
Intersect. Yeah,
Intersect, where I was a panelist.
yeah,
The gentleman I was working for was quite surprised that I was called by Masters Union because by that time Masters Union had already made waves.
yeah.
And at one of the meetings, I spoke strongly about Masters Union and the kind of beautiful work you're doing.
Thank you.
And he echoed that sentiment.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
So
much.
I think you're doing a great job. As long as the degrees are recognized, people accept them, children don't get questioned, they set up their own thing or get good jobs, I think we're good to go. It can't get any better than this.
Absolutely, and our degrees, I mean, as we discussed, I mean, from we are affiliation with Delhi University, and
Hmm.
I mean, now with Illinois Tech in US, we are launching two new courses this year: undergraduate program in marketing and psychology, a school of data science and AI, and we just finalized a partnership with IIM Bangalore. So there are a lot of things happening, and even the Vice President
Excellent.
of India was here for our convocation in
Excellent.
February, where he
Excellent.
commended us. I mean, the I think we are blessed that we have encouraging comments coming in from all quarters, even the
Yes.
government and
Yes.
educators like you, and our partners, other higher education
Hmm.
institutions
Hmm.
also are now looking at Masters Union, and as you mentioned, drop
No,
shipping
it's a very unique model.
model,
It's a very
and I
unique
think this
model.
is the way forward.
Oh, yes, it
So
is.
thank you so much, ma'am, for your
Pleasure.
time and attention and sharing your personal and professional journey. It's amazing and inspiring
Thank you.
as
Thank you
always,
for
and we
having
look
me over.
forward to our continued association with you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to
Thank you.
come.